Okay, with our next step chapter जो है which we are going to start, that is movement of molecules across cell membrane, and there here we have to study about diffusion, osmosis, and active transport. In class 7, I'm sure you have studied about diffusion and osmosis little bit, but now we are going to see in little more detail. Right? These are the learning outcomes of this chapter. And at the end of this chapter, we will be able to know about the diffusion, osmosis, the active transport, and we will also be able to design some experiments to find out the process of diffusion, osmosis, and active transport. And we will also study about the surface area to volume ratio in this chapter. And we will see that why these processes are important in living organisms, or these are important to life. The first process which we are going to study, that is diffusion, right? And diffusion, this is actually the movement of molecules. Here we will also discuss how these questions are actually marked in Cambridge, right? This is the movement of molecules, and molecules can be gas molecules like carbon dioxide, oxygen, and they can be ions. This is the movement of molecules from higher concentration to lower concentration with or without partially permeable membrane. Or it also do not use this energy because it is the type of the passive transport. Simple, how you can define this? This is the movement of molecules from higher to lower concentration with or without partially permeable membrane, or it also do not uses the energy because it's the type of the passive transport. Example where this diffusion is taking place in living organisms, human beings, movement of glucose from small intestine to the blood takes place by the process of diffusion, right? What is lumen of the small intestine? This is small intestine, and this hollow part of the small intestine is known as lumen. Wherever you are going to see the hollow part, it will be in all the tubes which are present inside your body, like your blood streams. All blood vessels have the hollow part inside it, and that hollow part is known as the lumen. Then respiratory tract, that is trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, they also have a hollow part inside that is known as the lumen. And we also studied about the hollow part inside xylem that was also called as the lumen. The lumen is the general term which is used for all the hollow parts which are present inside the tube. So do not get confused that this is only for the small intestine. Wherever you are going to find hollow part, that will be the lumen. So blood glucose, movement of glucose from small intestine into blood, this occurs by the process of diffusion. Diffusion means that the lumen or small intestine has high concentration of glucose and blood streams have low concentration of glucose. That's why it moves by the process of diffusion. Another example is the exchange of gases. Yes.
Miss, what is passive transport?
Passive is that transport where energy is not used. I have already written without using energy. Passive is from high to low concentration. I can show you one diagram here. That is of, yes, this one. This is of passive transport. Here you can see that molecules or people are moving from high to low concentration. When the things move from high to low concentration, no energy is used here. And it's also easy for the molecules to move. When the molecules have to move opposite to their gradient, opposite means from low to high. This side is showing this is lower concentration and this is the higher concentration. So when the molecules move from low to high concentration, then some energy is used, and that type of transport is known as the active transport where energy is utilized. This is the passive where energy is not used because molecules are moving from high to low, and if the molecules are moving from low to high concentration, then energy is used, and this type of movement is known as the active transport. Clear?
Yes, miss.
Okay, so this is the type of the passive transport, and I've written here two examples. which are related to living organisms. There are also many other examples. Yes, the second one is exchange of gases during respiration and photosynthesis. During respiration, we take in oxygen and we give out carbon dioxide. You can also specify in this way while writing the example, or you can also write down the general example, that is the exchange of gases during respiration. Second is exchange of gases during photosynthesis. We know that plants carry out photosynthesis in the presence of carbon dioxide. So taking in of carbon dioxide into the plants and giving out oxygen during photosynthesis is also by the process of diffusion. Can you give me some other examples of diffusion in living organisms or outside living organisms, in the laboratory, at your home, anywhere?
Miss, the mixing of things because of diffusion.
Come again, please. When we dissolve something, right? Or if you place a drop of ink into water, after some, that is actually concentrated at the bottom or at one point, and after some times that is homogenized, or that is mixed into that complete water, spreads into that water. So ink molecules spread by the process of diffusion. And in water, in a glass of water or a cup of water, they are not using any membrane. Here I've written it can be with membrane or it can be without membrane. Both possibilities can occur. In glass of water, when we place a drop of ink, that spread equally after some time, that spreading is by the process of diffusion. But in glass, there is no membrane present, so diffusion can also take place without membrane. Second is when you enter your home and your mom has cooked something, do you feel the smell? If something is being
Yes,
cooked
Miss.
somewhere, so we can, yes, feel the smell, and that is also by the process of diffusion, because the place where that particular thing is being cooked, it has high concentration, and the molecules of the fragrance move from that place to those places where they are in low concentration. So this is the reason we feel the smell when we enter our home or when something is being cooked somewhere. Right, so these are the few examples of the diffusion, and there are also many other examples. And these examples which I have discussed about this fragrance and of this ink particles, they are actually without membrane. These are occurring without membrane, and those which will be occurring in living organisms, it's understood that all cells have the cell membrane, so there it will be taking place by the process through cell membrane. So diffusion can occur through cell membrane and without cell membrane. Both possibilities can be there. You have to remember all these points, because I'm going to tell you later that how this question will be marked according to mark scheme. Right, here is the one example. Here you can see this is potassium iodide particles. These yellow particles are the potassium iodide particles, and these blue particles which are on the right side, these are the water particles, or these are the water molecules. So yes, these are yellow are the potassium iodide, and these blue are the water molecules. Now this is the permeable membrane. Permeable means, partially permeable membrane means that which allows some molecules, a portion of the molecules to pass through it. Permeable means which allows everything to pass through it, as there is a membrane present in the center, and this is permeable. Permeable means that both molecules, water and potassium iodide, will be able to diffuse on both sides, right? Because this membrane is permeable, and this membrane is allowing them to move from one side to other side. So they will be moving from higher concentration to lower concentration. As we can see that potassium iodide are in higher concentration on left side, and water molecules are in higher concentration at right side. So water molecules are going to move from right side towards left side, and potassium molecules will be moving from left side towards right side because they are in higher concentration at left side and they are at in lower concentration on right side. So here you can see when they are equally mixed, right? This mixture is known as the homogenized mixture where there is equal composition of both the components. So we can say that these are the,
Excuse me, Miss.
yes,
Miss, can you write a homogenized word in a little explanation so that we can remember it?
this is homo, Genized,
मिस आपकी
homogenized.
स्लाइड आज हमें ग्रुप में सेंड कर देंगी.
Yes, I will send all these notes, these slides afterwards. Okay, you may write it down. When you will see this word written on this slide, then you will automatically come to know that homogenized is the same mixture, equal mixture. Okay. Now moving towards the second definition, second term, this is osmosis. Osmosis, this is movement of water molecules and this is specifically for water molecules. So you have to write here water molecule as I have also highlighted here. It's the movement of water molecules. It's also from higher concentration to lower concentration, similar to diffusion. And it occurs with partially permeable membrane. It means that partially permeable membrane is must in water. And it also do not uses energy. So it means that it is also the type of passive transport. Right? Example is it's only the movement of water. It's not the movement of all liquids. Only water will move by the process of diffusion. And example is the movement of water from soil to roots in the plant. This is the one example. Can you name any other example? This is the movement of water molecules from soil to the roots in plants. Can you name any other example of osmosis?
Miss, when water diffuses out of the body.
When water gets out of the body. When
In
water
the
is,
form of sweat.
yes, good, very good example. When sweat occurs, so water is diffused from blood into the sweat glands by the process of osmosis. In our body, wherever water will be moving, that will move by the process of osmosis, right? And another example is when water is being absorbed from large intestine into the blood, that also occurs by the process of osmosis. Right, so these are the examples. Here is one example, which this experiment can also be done at school to find out the process of osmosis. Now here you can see the 10% of sucrose solution is present. 10% sucrose solution is present. It means that it has less water and more sucrose. These are red one are the sucrose molecules. At this side, you can see that there are more sucrose molecules present, and these smaller bluer molecules are actually indicating the water molecules, right? And on this side, there is 5% sucrose, and on this side, on right side, on this left side, there are 10% sucrose molecules, and on this right side, there are 5% sucrose molecules. So it means that there is more water on this side. If 5% are sucrose, then 95% will be water. And on right side, if there is 5% sucrose, then 95% is water. Right? This is sucrose. And on this side, there is 10% sucrose, so 90% is water. Where is water in more concentration? At this side, 90% is water, 10% is sucrose. So on this side, there water is in more concentration, and at this side, water is in more concentration, that is 95%, and at this side, water is 90%. So it's lesser as compared to this side. Here you can see in the center, this one I'm going to highlight it with another color. This one in the center, this is the partially permeable membrane, which is labeled here. This is the partially permeable membrane, partially permeable, and this will allow some molecules to pass through it. Okay, as you can see here, partially permeable membrane drop in the level. Okay, beta. Now here we have to see that this membrane, which is the partially permeable membrane, this is permeable only to water. You have to remember this is permeable only to water. It means that it will allow only water molecules to pass through it. It will not allow sucrose molecules to pass through it. Right? So only water molecules will move from this side to this side. Only water will be moving from B to A side. So water will be moving from B to A side. So here you can also see that there is rise in the water level. It has risen up, and this is because of the movement of the water molecules from B to A side. And why only water molecules move? Because this membrane was permeable to water molecules. It was allowing only water molecules to move through it. It was not permeable to sucrose, so that's why only water molecule moved. Understood?
Miss,
Yes.
after it, the water will rise, water will start moving to B side.
Yes. When there will be equal concentration of water, then the movement will stop. Okay. There is another, you can see, as this is also the passive transport. So here you can see that this side is the high, means that water molecules are moving from higher concentration towards the lower concentration. Right. So this is showing that they are moving from higher to lower concentration. This is from higher to lower, water molecules are moving, and here you can see that dilute sugar solution means that it has more water. We will discuss solution afterwards. Dilute means that it has more concentration of water, and concentrated means that it has less water. So from dilute, water molecules have moved towards this side. We can see it has, diffusion has already taken place. Okay, I think it's clear now. The next term is active transport. Active transport is the movement of molecules, right? Here there are ions. In diffusion, ions can also move, or charged particles, right? Here you have to remember this is the movement of molecules from lower concentration to higher concentration. In first two terms, diffusion and osmosis, we studied that molecules are moving from higher to lower concentration, but this is opposite. In this, the molecules move from lower to higher concentration, and with partially permeable membrane, it means that partially permeable membrane is also must here, similar to osmosis. In osmosis, partially permeable was also must, but in diffusion it was optional. That it can take, diffusion can take place in the presence or absence of partially permeable membrane, but here the partially permeable membrane is must. Next, it also uses energy. In the previous two processes, we saw that they were not using energy. They were the type of passive transport, but this is the active transport, and it uses energy, which is in the form of ATP in our body. Example are mineral salts, which are moving from soil into the roots of the plants. Right here, better you have to remember, if the molecules, this is the mineral salts, which are moving from soil into the roots of the plant. Now let's see that these are the roots, right? And here is, for example, potassium present into the soil, calcium present, and sodium present. These are different molecules. If these molecules have lower concentration outside, right? If it has lower concentration outside, it will move lower concentration outside than the roots. Roots have high concentration. potassium has low concentration, so it will move by the process of active transport. This downward arrow is showing that they have the lower concentration. These both have the lower concentration, so these both will move by active transport.
Miss, but at the same time, diffusion will also occur.
Yes, diffusion can also occur. This is what I'm going to explain. If they have higher concentration, then they will move by, this is the active transport, and if they have the higher concentration, then it will move by the process of, for example, if the sodium has higher concentration, so sodium will move inside by the process of diffusion. So both can occur. Don't get confused that only mineral salts move by the process of active transport. It also moves by the process of diffusion. So it will diffuse inside. Okay, next example is glucose molecules from the lumen. They move into the blood by the process of diffusion, we have discussed, and they move into the cells of the villi by the process of active transport. And they also move by the process of diffusion into the cells of villi. Both can occur depending on the concentration of glucose into the lumen. Here you can see this is the one example, hope so it would be clear. Let me zoom it out a little bit. This is the small intestine inside, and inside you can see that there are small finger-like projections present. These finger-like projections are known as the villi. This is the one villi which has been zoomed in for you, and these villi, they have the epithelial cells. I told you that the outer part of every organ inside our body is made up of the epithelial cells. So this is also the epithelial cell. One has been enlarged for your convenience. You can see that this is enlarged figure of the cells. These are the epithelial cells. So from this lumen, this is the lumen part. From this lumen, glucose moves into these cells, which are enlarged here, into these cells by the process of active transport. Right, and here you can also see that these are the blood capillaries. Can you see this red? This is shown here purple. This red and blue, these are the blood vessels. So blood glucose also moves into, yes.
Miss, these cells are also in our worksheet.
These cells were
Also in our worksheet, and worksheet of the मिस जो हमारी वर्कशीट हुई का उसमें भी ये सेल थे और ये कुछ एक्सट्रीट कर रहे थे तो वो ग्लूकोज ही था.
No, that was not glucose. These cells, you will see that there is another type of the cell that's known as the goblet cell. Goblet cells have, or goblet cells secrete mucus, or you will also see some glandular cells inside this. Okay, you will find out some this type of cells which are the goblet cells which secrete mucus, and there are also some glandular cells वो भी इसी epithelial के अंदर ही present होते हैं, और those epithelial cells secrete some gastric juice, some intestinal juices. ठीक है, इसी epithelial के अंदर ही बेटा we will find out different types of cells which will be secreting mucus and which will be secreting glands. Which will have glands and which will be secreting some enzymes or intestinal juices. Okay, but here they are almost the similar cells. They have shown just the epithelial cells here. Okay, and villi do not have glandular cells or goblet cells. Villi have goblet cells, but they do not have the glandular cells. Glandular cells are present in duodenal first part of the small intestine. Right? So here, beta, this is the hollow part is the lumen, and from lumen, glucose has to be diffused into these epithelial cells of the villi. So it will move by the process of active transport, but it can also diffuse into these cells by the process of diffusion depending upon the concentration. But in blood vessels, it always moves by the process of diffusion. In the cells of villi, it can move by the process of active transport and diffusion, but in blood streams, it will be always moving by the process of diffusion. This was the first example, and here you can see, here is another example. This is the movement of water. This is the water. Water will be moving into the roots by which process? Water always moves by the process
Miss
of
osmosis.
osmosis,
Osmosis.
and here are the mineral salts. Mineral salts can move both by the process of diffusion and by the process of active transport depending upon their concentration. In the first cell, they are moving because the water is in high concentration outside, and its concentration is low inside root here. So it will move by the process of osmosis. Then it will move to the next cell, next part where it is in lower concentration. Then it will move to the next cell. Means this cell has lower concentration of the water as compared to this one. So it moves from higher to lower concentration. Then this cell has even lower concentration of water as compared to this cell. So it will move to this cell, and ultimately it moves into the xylem, from where it is carried to different parts of the plant. But in xylem, always remember water does not move up by the process of osmosis. That is another process we will discuss in transport of plants. Okay. Next, we have already discussed that this is a passive transport where molecules move from higher to lower concentration, and this is the active transport where molecules move from lower to higher concentration. So when we have to move molecules from lower to higher, energy is always used. This is the comparison, and here I'm going to tell you that how it will be marked in mark scheme, or which points are important. While writing these, you have to write down those points. Here, it is as it's the movement of water molecules. Here you can see it is the movement of molecules, right? You will be given 1 mark for this if you're going to write this. It is the movement of water molecules, so it's important. In osmosis, 1 mark will be for this. And okay, this is the movement of active transport. This has been removed out. It's the movement of molecules, right? This is the movement of molecules from lower to higher concentration. So in this, you are also going to mention that which molecules are moving, right? So this is movement of molecules, mostly ions or charged particles move by this process. Ions or charged. So you have to mention this, that which molecules are moving.
Miss, what do we mean by charged molecule?
They have ion or charged molecules are almost same. They have charges, some positive or negative charges like calcium. You can see here is positive. Chloride, it has negative. So sodium chloride, potassium chloride, when they are split into their ions, or means the ions they are made up of. So they have some charges on them, and charges are because of the gain or loss of electrons. You will study this in chemistry, right? So those molecules, mostly charged ions, they move from by the process of active transport. Some other molecules can also move by the process of active transport if they are moving from lower to higher concentration.